Dear friends, good evening. It is lovely to see you all, especially our dear guest, Nomi Green. I am in a booth in Falls Church, Virginia, and I am being grandmother this week. So Dave and I are calling in from unusual surrounds, but we are very, very happy to be here. And I know that others will be joining us. We will let them enter the Sangha as they are able when they arrive. I see we also have other guests that are joining us this evening, and I just want to welcome you as well and let you know that after our formal practice period, if you'd like and feel inclined, we'd be happy to have you introduce yourself to the group, and we'd love to hear a little bit about you. But for now, we will go ahead and introduce our dear guest speaker this evening, my friend Nomi Green. I have a bio from Nomi that is a good place to get started, but this is by no means the whole of her story, nor our story together. But I think it's important that you know that Nomi Green was ordained in the Plum Village Order of Interbeing community as true source of virtue. And that would be Chan Duk Nguyen, I believe is how you pronounce that in Vietnamese. She's smiling at me, so I'm not sure I got that right, but it's a good effort. And she practices mindfulness-based psychotherapy. Nomi is honored and humbled to have had the opportunity to have studied and practiced with her teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh. And she also has studied and practiced extensively with teachers Joanna Macy, Marsha Lynham, Resma Mencken, I believe is pronounced. Sorry about that, Resma. Reverend Angel Kyoto Williams, and Ruth King. And I think in my email to announce this evening, I mentioned that she and I were early Earth Holders, and we were very much working hand and glove together as sisters on the path in bringing the Earth Holder community together with many others. And it was one of the most extraordinary experiences of my life, particularly because of the wisdom and the commitment that Nomi brought also to the effort. So I am so grateful for everything that she contributed to that. But also I want to say that there's two things that really stand out for me about my friend Nomi as a teacher to me personally. One of them, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, Nomi, but one of them is that she's the first person that introduced to me and really practiced the understanding that vulnerability is a superpower. And that's something I have tried to practice and be aware of as part of our friendship and my learning from her. And the other thing that, in a way that she's been a teacher and an inspiration to me across the years, is that she has showed me through her lived experience and through her own commitment to her values, what it truly means, not only to be a white ally to Black, Indigenous, and other people of color, but to be a white accomplice and coming from a place of love and standing together. So I owe an awful lot to this dear woman here. And I'm going to stop talking so that Nomi might go ahead and lead us in meditation. So thank you. Welcome, Nomi, and welcome everyone.
Hi, everybody. Nice to be here with you all. Can you hear me? If at any point you can't, because I do tend to trail off from time to time, just wave at me or go like this or give me a thumb to talk louder. So I'll do my best to not trail off. I've got my volume all the way turned up now, so maybe that's a little better even. Um, so I don't want to talk too much at the beginning. I want us to kind of dive into a little bit of trauma-informed meditation. And so all I want to say before we start our sitting practice, and I will offer some guidance along the way, is if anything I say doesn't work for you, or if you notice being a little activated in any kind of way, don't think, oh, I'm supposed to make myself do this. The best thing to do is just disregard what I'm offering and do what feels right to you. We all, whether we know it or not, have internal wisdom. And so to trust that inner signal to us, I'll just give one example. For some people, the breath can be activating. So here we are in a meditation practice and constantly instructed to come back to our breathing. And if that is activating for you, later tonight we'll talk about some other ways to do it. I am going to start with the breath as we traditionally do. So if you need to disregard me from the very get-go, just go for it. So, so with that, for those of you that it's comfortable to anchor your awareness on your breath, please do so. And breathing in, bring the awareness to the in-breath. Breathing out, bring the awareness to the out-breath. If the breath is uncomfortable, you can play around with it a little. See if breathing deeper into your belly, putting your hands on your belly, feeling your belly go out and in, if that's more settling. Or even bringing your breath even lower, in below your belly button. There's a little sweet spot in there that we call the dantian. Imagine like a little pearl floating 3 fingers below your belly button and 3 fingers inside your body. That little pearl right there might be a place of quiet or calm. And now bringing your awareness into your body. Just going to notice if there's any place in your body that feels neutral. So not numb, but neutral. Possibly even pleasant. For some folks, it's very easy to find a neutral place, and for others, it's not so easy. So, a few places to look if it's not easy to find. Maybe the bottoms of your feet if you're in a chair and your feet are touching the ground. Maybe your hands, whatever your hands are touching, there's a little warmth there. Maybe your seat. I personally find my seat is quite comforting. I enjoy the sensation of gravity holding me here and realizing that I can just let go of every muscle and gravity will keep me right here. I don't have to do anything right now. If none of those places feel neutral, it might be noticing your heartbeat or your lungs or some other internal organ. Maybe there's neutrality there. As you continue to bring your attention to someplace neutral in your body, you might start to notice that neutral is actually pleasant. How lovely is it? This part of my body that doesn't have pain or uncomfortable emotional sensation or painful thoughts. How lovely is that? And if you've drifted away, to bring your awareness back to a place of neutrality within your body. You might even notice that as you bring your awareness to that place of neutrality, perhaps pleasantness, that it has spread, or that it could spread with the right kind of awareness or attention. And that in spreading, it might be calming other parts of the body down that didn't feel neutral.
Dear friends, thank you, Nomi. I'd like to invite us into walking meditation at this time. And for those of you who may be new to walking meditation, this is, as Ty says, it's meditation while walking. It's very simple. You'll move, maybe keep 20% of the awareness on your breathing, calming the body, and then bring most of your awareness down into the sensation of your feet. And walk in such a way that you're the happiest person on the planet. You can kiss the earth with each step. On the first sound of the bell, I'd like to invite us to rise and stand behind our chairs and bring your hands together in a bowing posture. When we bow to one another, it's very simple. All we're doing is bowing to the potential within each of us to be enlightened. If bowing is not comfortable for you, there's no pressure. But just so you know, that's what we'll be doing. So on the first sound, please rise and stand behind your chair. On the second sound, we'll bow to one another. And on the third sound, we'll begin walking. One peaceful step with our in-breath, one peaceful step with our out-breath. On the next sound of the bell, you'll come back and stand behind your chair. And on the next sound of the bell, we will bow to one another and resume sitting again.
Thank you, Heather. For this next period of sitting, feel free to continue experimenting with where's neutral. Our teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, advises us to look for what's not wrong. So maybe some of us have aches and pains or things in our body that aren't working so well, but much of our body is not wrong. So to really notice all the parts of your body that don't have aches or pains or uncomfortable sensations, and we'll just sit quietly for the next 9 minutes. So your Thai, your community. I love to say, dear Thai, to remember our teacher in his cosmic body is here with us, to welcome him, for the gratitude I feel to have had the opportunity to practice with him. So I've been trying to figure out exactly where I'm going to start here. I think I'm going to start by talking a little about Resmaa Menakem. I don't know if you've heard of him. He has this beautiful book, My Grandmother's Hands. Can you just wave at me, any of you who have heard of him? Yeah. I was honored to get to study with him for 9 months. And I highly recommend reading My Grandmother's Hand. And he has a new book coming out tomorrow. I can't remember the name of it, but if you just Google him, you'll find it, I'm sure. And I learned a lot from Resmaa. I'm going to pass on some of what is out there in the world. So some of what I learned, I'm not permitted to share, but much of it is either on his website or in My Grandmother's Hands. And so I will share a little about that. What I want to start with, though, is Resmaa talks about how the trauma of racism, the trauma of historical harm, intergenerational harm, was first white people on white people. I differ with his timeline a little. He talks about 500 years. I'm Jewish, so I'm going to go back farther than that. In Jewish time, we might say 4,000 years. And part of why I want to start here is because I just want to honor my own lineage. All 4 of my grandparents escaped genocide in the Ukraine, in what's now the Ukraine. So my trauma is a little activated these days. That there we have a white people fighting white people war. But I also want us to take note of that we're not this war, which is plastered everywhere, unlike so many wars that are where people of color, Black, Indigenous, and people of color are being warred against, and how those wars don't make it to get plastered on our TVs. It's just one symptom. We could think of a lot of these wars. I'll first mention the war in Palestine, the war in Afghanistan, Iraq, Yemen, Eritrea, Sudan, and so many more, which are as horrible and as brutal and as traumatizing. And so I want to say that probably we all have some kind of trauma, whether it's small t trauma or large T trauma or whether it is what would be called in the medical model post-traumatic stress disorder, but that most people have some kind of trauma that they've experienced. And so figuring out how to heal our nervous systems is such an important thing if we want to figure out how we're going to be together, live together, enjoy each other. So another piece, well, I want to go back to our teacher, who one of the things Ty has said is, I have known so much suffering. That's why I teach joy. So here's someone who lived through a war, watched people being killed, was exiled from his country, tried to help boat people, succeeded in helping some boat people, tried to help refugees, succeeded in helping refugees, and this very humble person who says, I learned to do two things well. I learned to sit and I learned to walk, which we might say is such an understatement for all that he has offered to the West. I want to keep coming back to that, though, because that was kind of that first meditation. I'll be curious to hear what that was like for you in finding what's not wrong, in noticing what's neutral or pleasant or just not wrong. That in and of itself can be very healing. There's, so I want us to keep touching back in that, because this is the practice, is to keep coming back to how do we refresh ourselves? How do we notice what looks like you all have homes? I'm guessing we've all eaten today. All the things that aren't wrong. And we could go on because blood is pumping or we wouldn't be here, and air is going in and out or we wouldn't be here. And so there are so many more conditions that aren't wrong than the ones that are wrong. And yet the ones that are wrong grab our attention for a good reason. One of them is that we are actually wired to be somewhere between 13 and 17 times more likely to notice what's wrong than what's not wrong. We're wired that way for very good reasons. When we were living in jungles and forests and caves and huts, and there were wild animals, we had to be alert to danger in those kinds of ways. Now the kind of danger we're alert to is not that kind, although it could be violence on the streets where we live or that kind of danger. And it could also be, though, the kind of danger that we kind of hyper-vigilantly are drawn to, maybe the news or other things, other kinds of sense impressions that we come into contact with that that can dysregulate us. And so, so how do we get our nervous systems in order? How do we do that? It's not an easy task, and it's harder for some than others. I'm just going to talk. Let's see, how much time do I have? I have like 10 more minutes. I want to mention this thing called epigenetics. So epigenetics are that our genes can express themselves in different ways because of trauma. And that really what it's like is like the volume of certain things gets turned up or gets turned down. It's the expression of the gene. The gene itself doesn't change. It's complicated. We don't have to understand all the neuroscience to get the concept. But for example, Jewish people, what they say, we're one of the people that this whole epigenetic theory was discovered on. It was first tested on veterans, primarily from the Vietnam War, and then on Holocaust survivors. And I don't know how they determine these things, they, scientists, researchers, but what it is thought is that in Jewish people, once, I don't even know how they determine, but that it's about 1.5 generations after the original trauma, the epigenetic, the expression of the gene can turn back off. And so the nervous system can feel like it's back in safety again. However, with, for example, Black people in this country, the epigenetics have never turned off because we've never, and these are generalities because the expression can be different in different people, but generally speaking, the epigenetic trauma that got turned on has never turned off because the trauma is still occurring, maybe in little ways, maybe in big ways, but it's still occurring. And so the gene expression cannot turn back down. And so it's important for us, each of us, whatever our social location is, to figure out how we're impacted by, those two examples are historical traumas. There's also intergenerational trauma, which might be some kind of behavior that is reproduced over and over in a family, some kind of abuse that is recreated over and over in a family. And intergenerational trauma also has epigenetic expressions. So I'm kind of like laying out all of this to have like some general sense or foundation of how we're all impacted, or most of us are impacted in one way or another, and how it's possible to keep enacting it over and over onto people we come into contact with, or to not be sensitive to what is reenacting it. I want to share a few of the resources that Resmaa teaches, in part because they're, I like things that, so I'm a psychotherapist, and some people need a psychotherapist. I'm not putting my profession down. Some people need somebody like me, but there are simple things we can do to help ourselves in our daily life. And there are things we can do when we're activated. And so I want to just spend a little time talking about some of those. One of them is, and I love that we do this in our Plum Village tradition. I don't know if in the Sangha you sing, but there's something about humming or singing, and especially like to put one's hand right here on where you can actually feel the hum in your body. And to hum, that like kind of vibration, which vibrates with the vagal nerve and can just get the whole body kind of regulated. So another thing that Resma teaches is about swaying. So we could actually hum and sway at the same time. And while I'm going to have you all stay on mute because humming together might be cacophonous because of the different rate that the sound travels at, but I'm just going to do a little humming, and you could do the same. So 1 or 2 hands on your heart, humming and swaying. And I like to hum to a Plum Village song, but some people just like to kind of do more like an Om kind of humming, or sound humming. So I'm going to hum this Plum Village song. If you know it, you're welcome to hum along with me, or you're welcome to just turn the volume down and do whatever kind of humming moves you. So to feel that vibration is really a lovely sensation. Feeling how my diaphragm, I suppose, is vibrating there is a really lovely, calming sensation. I love this one because it's portable. You can take it anywhere. You can hum in your car, you can hum in your home, hum in the shower. The swaying is also portable. I'd like to teach you one more that I teach my clients. This one is called paced breathing. And what it is whatever your in-breath is, this one is the most portable of all because no one knows you're doing it. So like maybe you don't want to hum in the checkout line or sway in the checkout line or something like that. But this one you can do anywhere and no one knows you're doing it. And what it does is the nervous system has a gas pedal and it has a brake. And for many of us, the gas pedal is like pedal to the metal and stuck, like we can't settle back down. Some of us have the brake stuck, which leads to a sense of kind of numbness or dissociation. So either could be true. And this gets your nervous system kind of humming in a sweet spot. Generally, if you're upregulated, it's going to downregulate you. And if you're numb, it's going to help you get back into your body. So the way this one goes, and we'll just spend a minute or two doing it. Oops, I see I'm running out of time. So this will be the last thing, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do next together. Is to, if your in-breath is the count of 2 or 3, you want your out-breath to be at least 2 counts longer. So let's say your in-breath is the count of 3, then you want to breathe out for a count of 5. And as you do it, you'll notice your in-breath gets slower and your out-breath gets slower. So let's just take a minute or two to practice a few of these paced breaths. So I wonder if it's if it's not too big a group for us to all stay together and share. And I'm open to either questions or a more traditional Dharma sharing. Maybe have